Good morning. I am Allie Brown. I'm here in Scottsdale, and I am here with a very special guest today, Angelique Rewers from the Corporate Agent. And you were in Florida in Boca?
Boca.
Boca
Yeah,
Raton. Do you just say Boca? Is that what
I
you
do.
say
Yeah.
when you lived down there? Okay. Yeah. And when you moved there, I pictured you just floating through the house in like caftans, carrying some type of tropical drink. Is that not inaccurate?
Now it's more accurate. When I first moved here, I felt like Elle Woods when she arrives, at Harvard and or Yale or wherever she goes, and she's all in the wrong clothes. I was
Yeah.
in sort of all these dark. I had my boots
Like
and
neutrals.
my
Yeah.
neutrals. So now we've been here for 7 years, so I've adapted.
Yeah, you're a little more, little pops of color,
Little
right?
pops of
Ease
color,
into
yeah.
it a bit. I love it. Well, it's so great to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. And I wanted to have you on the show today. Let me just give a quick introduction for the show, though. I forgot because I just was so excited to catch up with you. So this is We Lead Live. And what I'm doing is twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, at this time right here, I'm bringing on some incredible women who have built 7, 8, 9-figure companies. So you can get a feeling for, first of all, that these women are out here. Second of all, how did this happen? How they built their companies, what was been the trajectory of their career and decisions they made. And then I feel really most importantly right now too is looking at this year and what we see coming, how we should be thinking differently, how we should be navigating some changes that may be coming this year. And Angelique, I'm just so excited to hear about your predictions and catch up. And I would love if you could just hit off the bat and share a bit about your evolution, because it's really interesting how you became the corporate agent. I still love that name.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And can you believe it's been over 10 years now? I certainly can't. So, I started my career in corporate, probably like a lot of folks in your community, Allie, and a lot of people out there. And I became disenchanted with what was going on in that space. I certainly didn't feel fulfilled. So one day I walked into my boss's office and I quit. And I started a consulting company selling to corporate because that's all I knew. That was my whole world, was selling to corporate. And the next thing you know, I fell into the online marketing blender that can spin us all around, right? So,
I like that.
like,
It's like a Vitamix.
it
Yeah,
really
you
was
get
like a
thrown in.
Vitamix, Allie. It was like, I'm like from conference to conference, I'm trying to figure out all this online marketing stuff. Now, this was back in 2008. So things were
The
actually
golden
simple,
age.
the good old days, right?
Yeah,
Of
so
online
exciting.
marketing. So, I found myself in these rooms with folks who were really struggling with that space, who had come out of corporate. It wasn't really a great fit for them. They started asking me, how are you getting all of these corporate clients? And, for about 2 years, I pushed those folks away and just didn't see that as an opportunity. But I actually spoke at one of your conferences. And when I went back and I watched that video, I had a V8 moment of, oh my gosh, why am I not teaching other people how to win these corporate clients? That was in 2009. And
Hmm.
then later that year, I actually came out to California and met with you. And I said to you, I know this is going to sound crazy because corporate is a dirty word right now, with the
Oh
growing.
yeah,
Remember that? Do you remember that? And I'm like, I
yeah,
know people are going to think I'm crazy, but I really think where my brilliance lies is in teaching these entrepreneurs, these professional service providers, these coaches, how to win corporate clients. And so we literally came up with a corporate agent sitting on your living room sofa. And that was 10 years ago, and we've stayed that course. I mean, this company has just grown and grown and grown. We, work with people over 72 countries around the world. So,
wow,
and really it's professional service providers selling into corporate. But it was,
yeah,
there was some zigging and zagging in there. But, now we're looking back celebrating 10 years.
yeah. I remember at those events, people would kind of crowd around you because you had this ticket to this strange new world of
Yeah.
corporate, and I have to say, it's interesting because every few years I'll just kind of peek back or I'll see you at something and I'll be like, oh, she's still doing that. I'm like, wow, like it's your company has grown like this. You guys teach this like down to the most minute detail and how to do this. How easy, let's talk about people watching right now. They may have a business that or a service that they provide at a certain level, like more at a consumer level or a small business B2B level. How easy is it typically to, I'm sick of the word pivot, shift to a corporate market instead? Like how have you seen people make that change?
You know, we see it start usually when we're starting with folks. We have them focus on small enterprises and mid-market. So companies with maybe 5, 6, 700 employees, maybe 2,000 employees. Honestly, it's the exact same process as it is to work with corporate, because when you're working with corporate, let's say we have a client working with Delta, one working with Facebook right now. Our client who's working with Facebook, the teams that she's working with are 50 to 100 people. So
Wow.
they're like a bunch of small enterprises that are stuck together, all these different teams and departments. It's not that it's actually harder to work with the big companies. It's a mindset issue for the people who are starting. They just sort of get sometimes afraid of the idea that it's Facebook or it's Delta or it's Starbucks. So we'll often start them with that sort of mid-market or small enterprise. And here's the other thing. Most of the stuff that people have learned to do in the sort of coachy space, we'll call it that for a second, training programs, masterminds, live events, coaching, all of those things are transferable into the B2B space. And there's a conscious awakening that's happening in the space right now, which kind of gives those of us in the sort of woke space a little bit of an advantage, because they're sort of wanting to wake up. They're seeing some of the people leave who have that awakening. They're walking out the doors. So there's this sort of mysteriousness to it, this, that impression of increase of working with the people on the outside. Something we don't know. We want some of that entrepreneurial spirit, that woke spirit coming into our organization. So there's actually an advantage there as well. But I don't necessarily, if someone has never, ever, ever worked inside of a huge corporation before, we'll typically start them a little smaller.
Yeah. It's like the goldfish in the baggie before you let them out of the tank.
That's a perfect analogy. That is the perfect analogy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the kinds of service that, like you mentioned, coaching, consulting, those types of things, like things that we may be doing. My favorite kind of example right now is, and I've had clients that I've mentioned this to and thrown your name out to, when they're just, you could tell they're exhausted with the online models. They may be incredibly skilled and gifted at what they do, and they have some good clients, but they're just, they don't want to build another 14-step funnel. They are sick of posting on Instagram. Then now they have to be on Clubhouse. And like they're just like, I can't take anymore. Talk about how simple this shift can be, because I know what appealed to me at some point. I remember like learning your stuff, and I'm like, geez, maybe I should just go sell.
No, seriously, you and I should talk, Allie. You and I should talk. Yeah, look, one of the things, I love that. So there's this graphic I'll use sometimes of a swimming pool, of the idea of filling up a swimming pool, whether that's your impact or your money. And it's sort of like, do you want to fill up that swimming pool one soup spoon at a time, or do you want to fill it up with a tanker truck? And most people in the audience will raise their hand and pick the tanker truck. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm telling you with a corporate client. They're backing up their tanker truck. You're closing one sale with them. You're bringing in maybe 100,000, maybe you're bringing in 3 million, depending on what you're doing. And think about the impact that you're having, because it's not just one person. You're impacting typically hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of employees, but the whole ecosystem. One of our clients right now is doing work with a major brand, and she's retraining their marketing team how to think different about the marketplace. And so the ripple impact of what this social media company is now doing in the marketplace is changing the way that women business owners and minority business owners are interacting in the world. And so, you look at the impact piece of it, and that word gets thrown around a lot. Thought leadership, impact, all of that gets thrown around. And then you look at the people who are working with larger organizations. Sometimes it's universities, sometimes it's the nonprofits. We do all of that. And it's a force multiplier for your business. And so, if you can get past some of the, I'll tell you the biggest thing that holds people back, especially women, is a lot of folks had a negative experience at one point in a job. And there's still a wound that they're carrying around, Allie, from that corporate career. And so if they can release that, then it opens up. It can sometimes really hold them back, that they really hold on to some negative experience, which is a shame, because most coaches and consultants are actually much happier if they're looking at the whole marketplace and not limiting themselves to just, one pond.
Yeah, yeah. Would you venture to say that with upcoming predictions for big tech, like getting, a lot of small businesses have been very reliant on social media, for example,
Oh yeah.
for their models and their business. So do you see, like, there is a forecast, like, undoubtedly, that like stuff's going to start getting broken up, more regulated, like shifting. I think that's a huge opportunity for me to start, for people to start saying too, like, you know what, how I've done business is going to change
Oh.
if they weren't doing it already. And look, they should seriously look at marketing to corporate as an option if they hadn't thought of it. Most of them hadn't even thought of it. That's the interesting thing. It's like you must see the light bulb go off all the time.
All the time. I mean, we'll walk into conferences and speak. A lot of times it'll be in the sort of solo practitioner, self employed expert space. And folks will come up to me after I walk off a stage and they'll say, when I saw you on the lineup, I thought maybe I'll just go check email. This definitely isn't for me. But now that I've heard you, I'm thinking, why have I not done this all along? So we hear that constantly. I think the other part of it too, Allie, is just market saturation. I mean, my goodness, how many more folks can teach the same thing? We've created the ultimate, not we, like the industry has created the ultimate pyramid scheme, like the ultimate idea of I'm going to teach these people how to create the same business model as me. And
Yeah.
then they're going to teach people how to create that business model and the next person, the next person. One of the things that happens for folks when they start looking at that bigger B2B market space is they realize that their business can actually be a completely unique business model. It doesn't have to be the funnel business model. It doesn't have to be the, oh, I'm going to advertise on Facebook, pull people in, have a live event, sell them into it opens up this whole world of possibilities. And I think the real issue is the saturation, to be honest with you. I mean, it is just so
Mhm.
noisy out there. And people are just really fighting. Look at LinkedIn. I mean, we're on LinkedIn, which is an amazing platform. But my inbox in LinkedIn is the bane of my existence with the amount of prospecting emails that I get that all sound the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's gonna run its course. And there's some people making good money, and if it's working, we're want to tell you all right now, like if what you're doing is working, pedal to the metal right now, man. You work it, you bank it, because
Yeah.
things could change. And the biggest lesson we learned last year is, like, we all got a little comfy in our models and where we were, and then suddenly there's a shakeup, and it's been great because everyone is stepping back, going like, let me look at everything. Let me look at my model. Let me look at my market, who I'm marketing to. Let me look at my marketing. But they may have never thought about it's so great to actually, when I'm working with a client, we map everything out on the wall. I do, by the way, when you did a VIP day with me years ago, that was in my perfect LA home. Now I have kids. No, we do not do the VIPs in that. we
Get
go, we get we
there.
we rent a conference room. Yeah, there's just no way, no way. Um, so we map it all out in the wall, and the question of who they're marketing to, so their market, very often they hadn't thought of before. They're all just so caught up in the methods of the marketing, and but actually stepping back and going like, could we shift your market? Could we shift your market to some people that are easier to target, that have the money to pay bigger deals with you,
Yeah.
and the ones you would love to work with? And suddenly they're like, oh, I never even thought of that. So it's a great time right now to step back and look at all this, and that's why I thought it was a perfect time to have you on.
Yeah, I think now really is the time to look at it. And when you look at all of the trends in the marketplace right now, you mentioned the FTC, obviously they're looking at Facebook and whether that has gotten too monopolistic in its size. But you look at globalization. You look at
Hmm.
the connectivity of everything. You look at how people are really, I mean, one of the real cool things that happened this year is corporate discovered this amazing technology called Zoom, which was hilarious. I mean, suddenly they're like, Zoom, we're gonna have a Zoom meeting. So they're actually a little bit behind the entrepreneurial space on every technology. One of the things that's happening in corporate right now is they're actually starting their own podcasts. They're now starting to use podcasts to speak to their employees. They're doing podcasts that they share with only other corporate customers, or so
Ah,
these aren't public podcasts that you got, that we can
right.
listen to. But, we podcast, when did you start Glambition? I mean, that was years ago, right? Um,
Hmm.
so they're always sort of lagging the entrepreneurial space. And I think so when you think about if you're going to reevaluate what your market is, think about what transferable knowledge and value that you have that you can take into these organizations. And the last group to get it are actually sort of those mid-markets and small enterprises. So there's
Interesting.
actually a huge opportunity there for that. And I think really the conversation that you're having, Allie, is one that you've always really, when we look at your evolution, when we look even, when I look at my evolution over the last decade, I think it's the question of, are you having the right conversation? Like, are you with the right people, having the right conversation about where things are going? And that's really what, to me, defines leadership and thought leadership is let's have leading thoughts about where all of this is going and where we're headed, not where we've been. I think that's what's great about the show. I think it's what's great about your community and what the conversation we're having today. Because this stuff, if we think it's moved quickly before, we haven't seen anything yet really about the speed of change that's coming.
Yeah. In your personal success, Angelique, can you share a bit about, things that you've done to elevate your career, elevate your business, you personally as a leader?
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing, Allie, has been taking the time consistently, religiously, that I sit down and I look at really what's happening in the world. It's really fascinating when I'll bring up a topic, something that's happened in Europe in the business market there, or something that's happening, geopolitically, for example. And I'll be talking to a room of entrepreneurs, and you get sort of blank stares. People will say crazy things to me like, well, I try not to listen to the news. I'm like, look, I'm not talking about the local news and like the local sort of cat, costume show that's going on or whatever the local. I'm talking about understanding like what's happening in the world and why is it happening and what's going on. So I really do think carving out that time, Allie, to be a student of the world and to make sure that you're taking the time to ask questions like, well, if this thing is happening over here and this thing is happening over there, where will the intersection of that come together? Seemingly disparate trends, really playing with those ideas. And I sit down and I do that on purpose so that I'm thinking ahead of where everyone else is thinking. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing is I try to surround myself with other really smart people. That's super important. You want to be with people. You want to really have a tight red velvet rope about where you invest your time and who you're willing to invest your time with. And that doesn't always make you the most liked person. Let me tell you.
The red velvet rope part, you mean? You mean deciding to leave certain communities or not go to certain events anymore or be more selective?
Exactly. And not be so accessible. Everybody who wants to have a conversation with you, everyone who wants, I realize, things are a little different now, but in many ways you get more requests because my goodness, you can just hop on Zoom. But really guarding your time and using that time the right way. And I think it doesn't always make you the most popular person with everyone. But I'm very guarded. In fact, I've met people at conferences. One guy comes to mind and he said, you were like the nicest person, Angelique, but it was so interesting. I had a different perception because you don't necessarily just show up to all these masterminds and you're not at all the, you're always, and I'm like, yeah, but that has nothing to do with how I'm going to engage with people. I'm just not willing to put myself in every room and spend my time with every person, and I think that's something that leaders have to think about is where they put themselves,
One of my past clients, Eleanor Beaton, calls the whole spending the tyranny of the coffee date. Yes. And she talks about how, especially women, we all feel very obligated as well to help each other, right? Moving up. But there's going to be a point that that you can be more of service, focusing on your work and figure out another way to be online or have a show or, just something like figure out how you can get great information to those people while you are building your business, because it's where a lot of people get trapped, and men as well. I remember years of having all the fun and going to all the conferences because that was the fun. It was fun and going to all the things and making all these friends. And then I went through this period of when I finally was like, all right, this is the model, this is my market, pedal down, we're going to do this. And I really just kept my nose to the desk for a while and got focused on that. And then finally met, the right guy and had my kids and all that. So man, if there's a wake up call for women in getting ruthless about your time, it's having a family, Because just, I'm very clear what interests me and doesn't interest me right now. I know the same's happened for you.
Yeah, well, we both have twins. So we have our hands full. My husband works in the business with me. And so he's our CFO. But I mean, we have, the kids are a priority. My mom is a priority. And so, I mean, it really gets, plus I think my mission, you think about your purpose, what you want to do. And suddenly you realize just how ruthless you have to be with your calendar. So I think that's one that everybody talks about, but there is a moment that the switch flips for you and you finally get it. I think the other part of it too is understanding where you are in your entrepreneurial maturity. Your questions change in your head, what you're asking yourself. And
I like that.
As you evolve as a leader, you do change what you're thinking about. I mean, it's really interesting. So you host experiences where people can get together. We host experiences, and it's really interesting to see the folks who are most concerned about the temperature in the room, right? Versus like that's really what they're worrying about. It's like you just missed. Like we've had this incredibly successful 9-figure business owner just talk about the evolution of the growth of how to scale or how to do this, or we've brought some major nonprofits into our rooms to talk about how you affect change in the world as a nonprofit and all of these things. And then you'll have someone come up and want to complain about, and you're just like, what just happened in your head that was the focus of what went on, and we don't get that as much anymore, but that tells you what kind of rooms you're in. If the questions that you're asking every day are, well, I don't know how to do this thing, versus what impact am I actually trying, or what outcome am I trying to achieve? If you're thinking strategically like that versus you're worrying about, should you sign up for this CR system or that CRM system? That's a very different question than ultimately, what am I building here? Where am I going? Which rooms do I need to be in? Which leaders do I need to be having conversations with this year? What community do I need to be building? What platform do I need to have? What's my model? What's my legacy? To me, those are the questions that you've got to be asking yourself. And so that's really, to me, about the entrepreneurial maturity piece.
Yeah, I love that. I wrote that down. Entrepreneurial maturity. It is a different timeline. And it's not related to age. It's not related even to business years in business. It's just something that you kind of get or don't. And we have a lot of people who are beginners, and God bless you, and go get the information you need. But there'll be a time, like, you know what? I need to be in a different room. I need to be with some people having more elevated conversation. And this is too good a segue for me to not talk about the trust now. I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in. So, what we're talking about and why I'm bringing these women like these on is for you to hear from these women who have built the 7, 8, and 9-figure companies. And so I want to let everyone know I'm doing a special informational call coming up. It is on Wednesday, February 3rd at noon Eastern. And here is the link. It's jointhetrust.org/private invitation. I'm going to be walking you through what the trust is. And this is my premier network for 7 and 8-figure women entrepreneurs. We just decided that, people just need like a new type of, let me try to get back. Hold on. Here we are. I got into my talk and want to get back to Angelique. There's some great networks out there, but I saw the need for something a little bit of a different breed for some of the women who have more modern types of businesses, want to have some different kinds of conversations. And so, I'll share with all of you on that call why I decided to found this, why I think the time is here now, everything we have coming up. We're going to be in Miami the beginning of March. We have Kara Golden, who founded and is the CEO of Hint Water, coming. We have just these women we bring in to spend time with us, and people tell me that they leave thinking differently. So imagine doing that again and again. It's going to just transform your thinking. So I'll give that URL one more time. It is jointhetrust.org/private invitation. And if it's not a good fit for you watching, please forward this to another woman leader who is a little sick of a client of mine called them the sausage fest masterminds. It's just like a big bro down. And, they're fun, but then you're like, oh, for God's sake, can I be around some like really intelligent women? And it's just a different conversation. So have fun at those. But a lot of women who are in my group are also part of other groups, and we're not saying it's the only group you need to be in, but it's something very special. So we'd love if you all took a look. So Angelique, I'd love you to share everything that you have going on about your programs. What, if people are listening to you today and saying, you know what, corporate, maybe I want to look at this, maybe at least feel this out and see if this could be an option for me.
Yeah. And before I do that, and thank you for the opportunity to do that, I do just want to say something about your rooms and your communities. And I think one of the things that has always been a trademark of yours, Allie, has been the diversity of businesses that are there. And I think one of the smartest things you can do is cross-pollinate ideas. And, I think that's really important. You were asking what do you do? And I was talking about looking at different things and reading where the market's going. And I think cross-pollination of ideas is so important. And so I just want to say that because I think
that's a great point. Yeah, because if you get in the same type of group, it gets a little incestuous. It's the same ideas going around, or a model you get locked into.
Yeah.
You get locked into it.
Yeah, it's a total echo chamber. And people are sort of replicating the same things. And it's like those inbred ideas really breed weakness in the business model. And so, I've always loved what you're doing because I always think it's great about how you're cross-pollinating, those ideas. And I think that's so important.
Yeah. Thank you.
We are doing some, we have really looked at what we do as a business. And one of the first things that we always say to people is, look, if you're trying to apply strategies from the online marketing or content marketing world, and you think you can apply them to the B2B market space, you're crazy. It just doesn't work that way. So, the first thing we always do with everyone is really put them into, like, I want to call it like the MBA of winning corporate clients.
I was going to say like a deprogramming.
There is a bit of a deprogramming that goes on there, Allie. There's like a deprogramming and a reprogramming. So we have a number of programs going on. I won't go into all of them, but you guys should definitely come check us out at thecorporateagent.com. And I'm on Instagram, and I am going to be on Clubhouse. God help me. But we're gonna give that a whirl. But the best place to find me is here on LinkedIn and thecorporateagent.com, where we have some really great resources. We also have our big conference that happens every year in the fall. This past year, one of the big pivots we had to make, Allie, and I know as someone who has planned a 700 plus person conference, that you're going to understand my pain when I tell you that in 2020, I had to replan this 700 person conference, not once, not twice, but I had to do it 3 times because of the pandemic. Can you imagine planning a 700 person conference and having to replan it 3 times in 1 year?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But we'll be back in person in October. And so you guys can find out information. One of the best places to start with us is at that event, which is realdealconference.com. And so you can actually get on the priority notification list of that conference. This year we had Coca-Cola, UPS, Accenture, American Airlines, Lumen, and a ton of Virgin Unite was there. The ATD, for those of you in the coach training space, you guys know the Association for Talent Development, they were there. So we bring in the big corporates, we bring in the big industry associations for professional service providers, and the whole room is filled with consultants, coaches, and professional service providers and diverse suppliers who are selling, the women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses that are selling to corporate. So realdealconference.com is a great way to connect with us and to come meet a bunch of people who are selling to corporate, getting started selling to corporate. And it's just a great room to be in and to network with corporate. So
that's fantastic. Well, I'll tell you, if I was on Clubhouse, I would follow you, but I'm not. Because your information was always so great, and I was always so intrigued. And I love the conference. You're not just sitting there learning, you're hearing from these corporations that hire, meeting them. There's some matchmaking that happens, I'm sure. It just happens. And so that's why it's the real deal. I love it. So can you give your URL one more time?
Absolutely. So the two are thecorporateagent.com and realdealconference.com.
Oh, fantastic. Angelique, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to give that URL for the trust one more time. The special call I'm hosting is jointhetrust.org/private invitation. If you would like to be around more elevated conversations like these and incredible women who are at a higher level, come have a listen. It's Wednesday, February 3rd, jointhetrust.org/private invitation. And, if you can't make that date and time, still sign up. We will fast forward you, and you can talk to my team if you'd like to have a conversation with them. whatever works for you. But I want to throw that out to everybody that if they do want to hear from me personally, I'm going to be on that call. Angelique, have a great day in beautiful Florida.
Thank you.
And
for having
it's
me.
so great to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Brushed online a bit, but it was so great to see you. And I can't wait to be on your show as well.
Awesome, Allie. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.